Welcome, everyone. I'm so pleased to be here tonight. Thank you to all the bookstores from the Great Lakes Independent Booksellers Association that partnered with us on this event. This event, for anyone who doesn't know, this event is a partnership among independently owned bookstores in the Great Lakes and Midwest. Also, thank you to all the readers and parents here tonight to support books, literature, and authors. If you haven't already purchased a copy of Fiona Helps a Friend, please consider doing so via your favorite local independent bookstore. If you have any questions during the program, please enter them in the chat as we go. Larry will be helping me moderate the chat, and we will conduct a Q&A later after Mr. Cowdrey's presentation. I am honored to be here to introduce an Ohio gem, Mr. Richard Cowdrey. Mr. Cowdrey's favorite things to draw and paint are the things that reflect the awesomeness of God and his creation. From vast landscapes to the littlest bug on a leaf, Richard marvels at the beauty in the details. Richard's best-selling children's books include Fiona the Hippo, Legend of the Candy Cane, Bad Dog, Marley, and A Very Marley Christmas. So I'm going to turn things over now to Mr. Richard Cowdrey. And again, thank you so much for being here tonight.
Good evening. I'm really glad to be with everybody. It's been said a million times, I'd much prefer to be there in person. Leading up to the pandemic, I was visiting schools all over the country, promoting Fiona and the different books that we've done together with the Zonder kids and the Cincinnati Zoo. And so it was becoming very natural to talk to a room full of hundreds of elementary school kids. Sitting alone in my studio is so I was going to start out just again reflecting on the presentations I do at schools, give a little background about myself. Inevitably, when I would be at schools, the kids want to know, when did you start drawing? When did you know you were an artist? And I'm going to try being tricky here with my, this will work, I think. So my answer to them is as far back as I can remember. I've been drawing, and my mother said she can't remember a time when I wasn't drawing. So I don't know if this is going to go smoothly enough to do it this way. So anyway, I drew constantly in school, and I can't really remember not knowing that I was going to be an illustrator. I love Norman Rockwell and his work and how he would tell stories with his artwork. So from as far back as I can remember, I've been making little books and, drawing and telling stories with my artwork. So by the time I got to high school and about to leave high school, I got a full scholarship to Columbus College of Art and Design. And which saved my life because I have no idea what I would have done otherwise. So I went off to art school, and I knew I wanted to be an illustrator. And so I did my 4.5 years at CCAD and was recruited by Hallmark in Kansas City. And after just a short while at Hallmark, I went out on my own as a freelance illustrator. And so I worked for many years as a freelance illustrator with a lot of different corporations, and there wasn't much publishing work for me back then. But I'm going to show an example of something I did do in my studio days. Whoops, hit share. So this was typical, and this is one of the higher profile projects that I worked on as a studio illustrator. I got to do the Super Bowl artwork, Super Bowl 32. And so that was a thrill. So as I was going along in my career, I would get the occasional with, especially with Scholastic or Harcourt Brace, a lot of the different educational publishers, I would start picking up book covers and individual pieces. But it wasn't until 1992 that I got my first picture book, the whole book. And that was a book called, and if anybody recognizes this book, I will be amazed. Animal Lullabies was my first picture book. And that was done with HarperCollins. And it did okay, but it was a real experience for me to do a 32-page book. You know, I was used to running sprints, running art sprints, and with a children's book being 32 pages and a cover, it is more like an art marathon. You know, you really have to pace yourself, and so I did a lot more book covers after that. And then a few years later, I got to do a book that's a little more recognizable, and that is Frosty the Snowman. And this was with Scholastic and Penguin Group, and this book did very well. So my name started to get out there in the publishing realm as a, you know, as an illustrator, obviously. So a couple of years after that, HarperCollins took a chance. Actually, they had a project because they had a book called Marley and Me that did very, very well. And I'm assuming most of you would recognize Marley and Me. It was also made into a movie. Well, they went looking for an illustrator to do the children's book version of Marley and Me, and they called it Bad Dog Marley. And I really wanted to do this book, so I did some sketches, character sketches, and that type of thing, and ended up getting to illustrate Bad Dog Marley. And this book went to #1 on the New York Times bestseller list. And so I ended up doing a whole series of Marley books with HarperCollins, and two of the others in that series also made it to #1 on the New York Times bestseller list. Or the Christmas book did, and then one other made it to the list. So so Marley did very well. And so I tell you all that as kind of a lead in to how I got to be the illustrator of Fiona. And that's a story unto itself. And it had been about 10 years since Marley, my series of Marley books ended. And I stayed busy with other projects and had another series that I did with Zondervan called the Legend series. There was Legend of the Candy Cane, Legend of the Christmas Cookie. So they were all books based on holiday events and that type of thing. And it was a lot of fun, and it is still, I think it's still in print and still sells pretty well. So I was sitting here in my studio, and it's been about 4 years ago now, which is amazing. But my wife, when I would go home after working all day in my studio, our sister-in-law in Buffalo, New York, was giving us an update every day on this little hippo at the Cincinnati Zoo. And I'm from Cincinnati, and I grew up at that zoo. I love the Cincinnati Zoo. And so I was very interested. So every evening when I got home, I'd ask, you know, what's the update on Fiona? How's she doing? And so we got to follow her, as so many people did all over the world. We followed her through her, you know, traumatic birth, and you know, it was really touch and go as to whether she would make it. So I was aware of this, and once she was in the clear and it was it looked like she would make it, it occurred to me that, you know, she already had a great story. Her life had a great story, and that it would make a wonderful children's book. And so I decided to do something that is unheard of nowadays, and that is I picked up the phone and called the Cincinnati Zoo. I'm not much of a computer guy, if you haven't figured that out by now. I do nothing, well, I email. That's the extent of my computer expertise. I do no artwork on it. I do all my artwork still traditionally with pencils and brushes and paint. So anyway, so I'm much more comfortable on a phone call, but I haven't heard of anybody making a cold call within the past 10 years and had it succeed. But I thought I'd give it a shot. I called the Cincinnati Zoo and I asked if I could speak to somebody in marketing, and actually got through. They put me in to a gentleman named Chad Yelton, and he's the marketing director at the Cincinnati Zoo. And so I told him who I was and told him, you know, I'm the illustrator of the Marley books, and fortunately he had young children, so he knew who Marley was. And you know, and I told him I've done this before. Marley was a true story, you know, a true character, and just like Fiona. And he had a story and she has a story, and I think it would be a big hit. And so he liked the idea, but it was still very foreign to him. So, you know, what I was talking about. So what I did was I did some character sketches. And can you see those okay? I hope. Not if you can. Everybody see those? So those were a few. I did some full body sketches as well of her. And I sent those down to the Cincinnati Zoo. And so they said that they loved the idea. And they said if I could find a publisher that was interested, that they would support it. The Cincinnati Zoo would support us moving ahead with a Fiona book. So the second publisher I called was Zondervan, and already having a relationship with them, you know, I talked to somebody there who, you know, could make that decision. And it was funny, she was in her cubicle at Zondervan when I called her, and she was, I guess, talking loud enough. I told her, I asked her if she had heard of Fiona, and she said, Fiona? And I guess people in the cubicles around her knew who Fiona was. She didn't, but I hear in the background, I hear people screaming, Fiona the Hippo. And so, you know, it sounded like there was some promise there. And so I did some more character sketches for them, and they put together a nice presentation, and it ended up all coming together. And so we wrote, basically the books have been written with me and Zondervan, the people at Zondervan together. Which is a real interesting way of going about it. I've always been sent manuscripts, but in this case, we've come up with stories and then have just kind of formed the stories together. And it has worked out really well. And so the first book, which hopefully everybody is familiar with, is Fiona the Hippo, and it has done very, very well. And it's been fun. I've been able, like I said, to kind of tour around the country when I'm not working on the books, promoting her, and going to I went to the ALA in Seattle last year, and the Los Angeles Zoo got a hold of me and asked
I think we might have lost Richard. Is anybody else seeing Richard move?
No, it looks like he froze.
I think he was going to come back. Did we actually lose him?
He has very low bandwidth in the area that he's in, and it was started to rain, and he was worried about that.
Oh. Yeah, we might have lost him. It looks like he's out of the chat right now.
I hope he knows he can come back.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. The
That's
thing,
why he's not very technologically advanced. He may be talking.
He said there's a big storm coming through right now.
oh. Yeah, if he wants to, if he can use the same link if he wants to try and get back in.
Okay.
I really enjoyed the images,
Yeah.
even the Super Bowl ad.
So maybe time for a commercial break brought to you by Zonder Kids and HarperCollins. So I just happen to have these two I Can Read series, Fiona and the Rainy Day, and Fantastic Fiona, along with my favorite from last year. Uh-oh, let me make sure it's on. Fiona and the Christmas.
Oh,
Yes.
We're
So-
in Ohio, and that was a very popular choice at Christmas.
That was
bet.
one of our best-selling books for the holiday.
Ours-
Oh.
Yeah. But ours didn't sparkle like that.
That was
You gotta turn it on.
Maybe they did.
Yeah. Let's hope the people who bought them found the on-off switch.
Yeah, you had to pull the little plastic thing out.
yes.
Can I see?
Kids
Can I
found
see-
it.
Can I see the one? The favorite.
Oh,
No.
these are the new ones. I have long given away the Fantastic Fiona, his original one. But
Oh,
of course, like anything else, we've seen a franchise here with Fiona. So we thought it was a good opportunity to introduce the kids who already love it to the I Can Read series, along with Fiona as the person leading the I Can Read.
mhm.
Who's texting me? Well, that's not Richard texting me. So.
He's waiting for the storm to pass. He said he'll try to get a connection as soon as he can. I could also call him and put him on speaker, but then we don't see his screen. You would only hear him.
Is he able to plug like an Ethernet cord into his modem? I assume I felt like he was doing it over Wi-Fi because that might help. I'm not sure.
Okay, let me ask.
I'm curious, where are you all located in the country?
I'm Bob Hedico. I'm the HarperCollins rep for everything west of the Mississippi, HarperCollins Horizon, Zonder Kids, Tommy Nelson. And I live outside of St. Paul, Minnesota in Inver Grove Heights.
Very good. Larry, where are you?
I'm in Woodridge, Illinois, just west of Chicago.
Denise?
I'm in Perrysburg, Ohio, just south of Toledo.
Isn't this just awesome? I mean, I know the pandemic was horrible, but it has opened up so many avenues for so many people to connect on ways that we would never be able to do. I'm in Tulsa. I'm the news anchor that is infatuated with Fiona and
Oh,
is
nice to
doing
meet you.
everything
Yeah.
in my power to get to go visit her. And so I've got all my books here, and
Aw.
so but I'm glad I saw on social media today that this was happening, and got the link and everything. So, and I just am fascinated by just the way he captured her. I mean, and that's why I was curious if he actually got to meet her and see her, if it was just through pictures or video, because boy, he really seemed to capture all of her sassy and all of that. So that's cool.
Yeah, he has had the opportunity to meet her a number of times, and we've done a number of events with the Cincinnati Zoo. They have been an amazing partner in this project, and we did the launch of the first book at the zoo. CBS This Morning was there, and a number of other local media as well, but it was a big party and it was fun. So, and then just kind of a sneak peek, we have Fiona's 5th birthday is in January,
Right.
and we have Happy Birthday Fiona coming in January. So there's going to be hopefully another big party, although in January it's kind of hard to schedule something too big, but with the weather. But
well, I
yeah.
have every intention of going. In fact, the plan, Christmas before last, my staff surprised me with a video of the crew saying and feeding Fiona and wishing me Merry Christmas. And I bawled on TV.
Oh.
Yeah. So I've been doing, and of course I couldn't go last year, and this year we're doing everything in our power, but maybe January may be the time to go. I know it's, she'll be off exhibit, but maybe I could work some magic and be there for that. Cause that may be the time that we could really make a big deal about it. My weather guy is he's not put out with it, but that's the game he plays. So every time I say Fiona's name, his eyes roll back in his head and everybody's just waiting for his reaction. So I'm loving it because I just, because there's so much between social media, and you're right. The Cincinnati Zoo is remarkable. They've done an incredible job, capturing her, but then also allowing all of us to be a part of this journey. And she knows she's something. And so we all kind of, put pictures of her and BB, and the whole, every animal that's there has got a place on our show sometime.
Aw. Well, and just to talk a little bit about this Fiona Helps a Friend book, when we were creating it, the story is that Matilda, the Kookaburra, has lost her laugh. So she's sad, and all of the animals are trying to think of a way to cheer her up. And little did we know that this would come out when we're starting to come out of a pandemic where so many kids are just experiencing sadness and emotions, and the book is acting as a way to cheer them up and to make them laugh. And so it's the timing has been just really interesting, and I'm sure he was going to talk about that too. So
now, where is he physically based out of?
He's outside of Columbus, but in Amish country. So he said, "Please tell everyone I'm so sorry. We haven't had rain in a month. So it figures it will all come at 8:00 tonight."
Sarah, do you know, since you're at the publisher, he mentioned he does all of his art still with, not on the computer, right?
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I think makes the Fiona books so special, and when he showed the Lullaby book, it's the same thing, is his artwork is so amazing and it's so realistic. As someone in publishing, do you think if he were to be working on computer graphics that it would be the same? Do you think it would be able to be that realistic and that beautiful if it were done electronically?
I mean, I'm on the marketing side, so I don't
Oh.
I don't always see a lot of the differences in the artwork that does come in, but I do feel like he has such a true talent in the way that he does it. I wouldn't want him to go digital with it, just because, like you said, like even the book with the swans, the animal lullabies, it's, I haven't seen that book many times. So even when he showed it on the screen, it's just like, it's breathtaking.
It is.
It's the realistic way that he does his art. So.
And are they all paintings?
Yes.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah, yes, it is. We get them in the office and scan them all in. So.
we had someone bring in a collection of old sci-fi pocket books to the store, because we do use books as well. But the art on the covers, I was like, I just want to, like, if I weren't so against destroying a book, I want to just make like a huge like art collection for my walls out of just, and that's back when, you know, all of the covers were done by painters, right? They were all beautiful, beautifully painted images that were put onto the covers, and I kind of miss that. Like, you don't see, I mean, there's a lot of awesome covers now too. I'm not trying to bash anybody's covers, but I just feel like those painting covers are just so gorgeous.
They are.
Oh, someone asked, do you know if his paintings are watercolor or acrylic or oil? Do you know what type of art they are?
Can you ask him on the text message?
I am. I told him that I'm presenting on his behalf, and he says, "Do your best, Richard." Allison, I see you're in Detroit. I'm in Grand Rapids, Michigan, so we're not too far from each other.
Not too far.
I grew up in Midland, Michigan.
Oh, yes. Where they had all the flooding last summer.
Yeah, my mother still lives in Midland.
Okay.
And she has a cabin, because everyone in Michigan has a cabin, right? She has a cabin in Gladwin, Michigan, where the other dam burst.
Oh my goodness.
So she's luckily not on, she wasn't on Wixom, so she didn't lose her lake. But her lake is a dammed lake that feeds into the river that got flooded by when the dam broke on Wixom. So they wouldn't let her lake, they wouldn't let them open the dam on her lake more. And instead she had 6 inches of water in her cabin. So she got double hit. It was quite a time.
Oh my word. Okay, he says it's acrylic on illustration board. And if you have any other questions for him, you're welcome to go to his website or to email him as well.
Allison, you look very familiar to me. Which bookstore is your bookstore?
Source Booksellers.
Okay. I don't think I've ever been there, but you look really familiar to me. Okay.
Oh, I think I think Richard is trying to join again. So fingers crossed. Oh, there you are. Welcome back. Still coming in.
Maybe.
Richard, can you hear us?
Okay, can you hear me okay?
Yes. Welcome back.
Hey.
The rain is slowing down. Okay. I guess there were questions. Sarah said questions. Should we just go to questions?
Sarah answered most of them for us. But I guess I have a question that I asked Sarah that I'll ask you.
All right, Sarah.
So I think part of what makes the Fiona books and all of your other books so amazing is your artwork, and it is so realistic and beautiful. Do you think that if you were to pick up graphic art on a computer, that it would be able to be as realistic?
That's hard to answer because, again, I'm so unfamiliar with, with the what's possible. I'm really impressed with a lot of what I see, and so I'm assuming it's just a matter of learning the various programs, you know, and then adapting that to the type of art I do. But again, I'm so unfamiliar with Photoshop and all of the different different apps or whatever that I really don't know. I think if I started with my sketches, because that's really where I think what I'm known for are expressions and that type of thing. You know, I give the animals a lot of expression, and that starts in the drawing process, not so much the painting. So I think if I started with my sketches and scanned them in and colored them in the computer, I think it would have the same life and same feel. In fact, I really should learn how to do that. It would probably speed things up quite a bit. But
I'm
you know
very
what? I
impressed.
love painting so much. You know, I love the feel of paint, and, you know, I have it on my hands at the end of every day, and I just can't imagine not painting. So.
Have you met Fiona?
Yes, actually, we had for the launch of the first book, that launch party was at the Cincinnati Zoo. And so my wife and I got to go back where they feed her and BB, her mother, and I got to pet Fiona on the head. And I was so focused in on Fiona that I didn't even see BB. She came out of the blue with her mouth wide open, you know, and the trainer grabbed my shoulder and pulled me back. Not that she would have got me, but that would have made for a nice children's book. The hippo that ate the illustrator. But yeah, I got to meet her and pet her on the head, and that was about 2,000 pounds ago now. I guess she's up to near 3,000 pounds, I think. So she was much smaller and cuter.
Leanne, do you want to unmute?
Are
and-
most of you, well, I wanted to ask, Sarah told me that these are mainly, you are Midwestern bookstores. Have most of you been to see Fiona or been to the Cincinnati Zoo? I don't know if that can be answered, but.
I have not. I'm up in the Toledo area.
Okay, we do have a yep. There we go, a
Okay.
couple of yeps.
So Richard, my name is Leanne, and I anchor the morning news here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And I, like you,
Okay.
have followed Fiona since her premature birth, and began doing updates on our morning show to the point that it's irritated our weatherman, but it's great fodder for every Friday. So my question, I have a bunch of questions, but one is, so you're in your studio right now. Is your studio near your home? And like, do you have certain times of the day, like I really like to work in the mornings or in the evenings, or do you just feel your inspiration and go and do it?
Well, my studio is about 50 feet from my house, which is a nice commute every morning. And I'm way, in case you haven't figured it out with my internet connection, I'm way out in the country. All of my neighbors are Amish. So I'm out here. And so your other part of your question was, yeah, I have all of my career, I've had to keep, stay kind of disciplined with my schedule. So I try to be out in the studio by 8 and to work by 8:30. And really 8:30 to noon is probably my best creative working time. And then I'm old enough that I'll eat lunch and it's almost like nap time then. But then I'll have an afternoon, a few hours in the afternoon where I usually kick in and am able to paint effectively. So that's a good question.
What's the hardest thing on Fiona to capture? I mean, those drawings you showed, the little sketches earlier, I just thought were precious. But as you work on her specifically, is there something that's a challenge to put, to make her come to life like you have?
Well, I would say the hardest part, if you look at a hippo, they're so different. I mean, dogs, cats, lions, tigers, there is a similarity in, they have a snout and all that. Hippos have a very odd, their eyes are these big things on the top of their heads, and their mouth is kind of tucked under their muzzle. And so initially I had to do a lot of research. I had a ton of hippo reference in front of me when I started sketching to try to figure out how to stay true to the animal, yet at the same time be able to give it expression, like, curl the mouth up in a smile and, make her eyes smiley. And so it was more challenging than like Marley or, most of the animals that I've drawn in the past. So, and now I'm kind of into a groove with her that, I don't even really think about it anymore. I have her, I have her down so well at this point. So, and we have a lot more adventures coming out. So Fiona continues.
Well, I think she's perfect. I think, not all hippos are created equal. And, you can just look on social media, her mouth, her smile, her eyes, her little ears. I mean, everything is just unique. And of course, that massive body, but I think everything about her is precious. So you've done a great job, and I'm so honored to get to hear from you during this segment. So thanks for taking my question.
Well, thank you. And hopefully when we're able to travel again and the schools open up, I haven't been to Tulsa before, so
We would
have to
love
come out and spread the Fiona love.
Absolutely. I will be
Yeah.
happy to host you. We've got some wonderful independent bookstores here that do a lot of this kind of stuff. So I think it would be awesome.
Yeah, great, thanks.
How do you draw characters laughing? Because animals don't really laugh.
Oh, that's a good one. I take some liberties, and I'm going to attempt this word. I'm going to get myself in trouble here. The anthropomorphic qualities, I kind of push it, but I don't want to push it too far. Like Leanne said, Fiona is very distinctive, and I don't want to lose that by making her too human. And laughing obviously is a very human expression. So there's kind of a balance there. I look at her and, and just push her mouth and eyes and, her ears, even her ears show expression. So like with a laugh, her ears will, shake, and so I'll put little shake lines on either sides of her ears, and even her whole body. I'll try to, if she's laughing, I'll try to show movement with her whole body, not just her mouth and not just her eyes. So yeah, it's a challenge. And again, and I talked with the publisher a lot about this at the beginning. We want her to laugh and we want her to have adventures and stuff, but we don't want her to become too Mickey Mouse, too human, too cartoony. We want her to stay a hippo, far more than a human or even a cartoon character. So, and that's a battle for me because I keep drifting into the cartoon because it's quicker and she's got a lot of cartoony qualities to her, but I want to keep pushing her back to staying a hippo. So that was a great question.
Can I ask, how long does it take you to do a painting? And then, after they're scanned for the books, what do you do with the paintings after that?
Good question. I probably average, there's two main stages to the creation of the book for me, and that is the sketching part, where I do very loose sketches and send that to the publisher. Well, they send me, we work out the manuscript, then I do very loose sketches, kind of stick hippos, and then we agree on the concept of what's going on. That's where I'll play with point of view or different perspectives and that type of thing. And once we agree on that, I'll do tighter sketches, and that's where I'm working out expressions and work out the bodies and all that kind of stuff. And so that's one part. And once that's approved, then I take all of my sketches and project them onto, I work on illustration board, it's a really high quality paper that's mounted on a board. And so that's what I paint on. And that would be the second half of the process, would be, taking all those drawings and then doing finished paintings. So if I take one page, the drawing part and the painting part, I'd say I average a page every 3 to 4 days. And that varies so much because, one page could be Fiona sitting there smiling, and another page may have half the zoo animals balancing balls and tossing things in the air and stuff. So it's gonna vary depending on how complex the scene is. So hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, then my second question was, then what do you do with the paintings after that?
Oh, okay. Well, in this case, actually with all of my publishers, they've been very, very gracious, and I wrap them all up at the end, and then this is the tense moment of the whole process, is I wrap all these paintings up and I give them over to the FedEx man. And I do a lot of praying that night, and the next day they're delivered hopefully to Zondervan, and they scan them. And the benefit of that is, they have the originals in front of them, so they can color correct and make sure that the scans are right on, which that's an important part of the printing process. So and sometimes in a pinch, I will scan a piece if they add something to it or something. The thing is, I just have your typical 9x12 scanner, so I can't do large pieces of art, and that challenges my computer abilities, techno abilities.
So how big are the paintings? Are they pretty much everyone the same
Good
size?
question. Through a book, yeah, they're all the same size. I try to stay, most of these, the picture books, all of the Fionas are 10x10.
Right.
And so I like to go up a little bit because it benefits the art if it's reduced just a little. It tightens everything up if you do your artwork up a little bit and then it's reduced in print. So I'll do them, they're 10x10 finals. I do them 12x12. And so a 2-page spread is going to be 24x12, which that's a fairly large piece of art. And then Larry, his last question was, what do I do with the artwork after that? And fortunately, as it's always, I think it's across the board in the industry that the artist owns the original art, and the publisher, they're basically buying first right printing. And then if they want to do anything else with it, you know, you have to talk price and that type of thing. So they're buying the printing rights to it. So I own the original art, and when I die, my children are going to be really mad because they're going to have to go through like thousands of pieces of art. But I try to give them away, to be honest with you. I sell some, but then you know, I try, for people who may comment that, you know, this one piece or this one page was really special to me for some reason, you know, I try to remember that and send it out just to kind of bless people with artwork.
Weren't you, I think, weren't you at the Maz, sorry, my dog is barking in the other room.
That's
Weren't you at the Mazda Museum in Findlay right before the pandemic? So,
yes, I keep, I'm sorry.
no, go ahead.
I don't remember the event, but I've been up there a number of times. I love the Mazda Museum, and it's just amazing that Ohio has something like that. You know, I mean, that is just top notch, and even more top notch now. They added a whole new wing to the museum, and I mean, you know, most of my clients used to be in New York, and they're very well aware in New York of the Mazda Museum. It's renowned, and the gentleman who's I don't know what his position would be called, but his name's Ben Sapp, and he's just excellent in promoting, and he just loves children's publishing artwork. And for anybody here who is not aware or hasn't been there before, well worth the trip. That's the Mazda Museum in Findlay, Ohio.
Yeah, they're about 45 minutes south of us, and it's a museum dedicated to illustration, and it's just amazing. So do they have, how many of your, is your artwork that's there the originals?
Yes, yeah, they have a bunch of my Marley artwork. I'm trying to think. I've donated quite a few to them, and again, my children will appreciate Mazda Museum, because I told Ben if I were to go before him that he gets to come down and sift through all my artwork, and I would be honored to have it hanging in Mazda Museum. So
I wonder, with Fiona Helps a Friend, did you think that this book was in a good, was timed quite right for children kind of coming out of this sort of sad time?
yes, yeah, that didn't get by any of us. We thought, yeah, that it was perfect timing for a book that encourages, you know, kids to be looking around at the needs of others. And yeah, I don't need to, you know, tell anybody about what everybody's been through here, so especially children. So I think any encouragement to be helping and encouraging and just watching for other people who seem a little more down or whatever, that's a good thing. And yeah, the timing's perfect for this book. And it is, and I have to be careful with, you know, picking what my favorite book is. But this book is special to me. It has a lot more characters for those who haven't had the time or opportunity to look through it yet. It has Fiona, but she has a number of friends with her, koala and giraffe and elephant and on and on. And then they run into this lost and found box that is full of hats and scarves and gloves and all kinds of stuff. So there were opportunities for me to, be very illustrative with it. And so for that reason, I just feel it's a very full book. It has a lot in it, really meaty. And so it may be my favorite. I can't really say, but.
Well, I think we're coming up pretty close to our hour. Does anybody have a final question they'd like to ask? Well, I'll ask a final question then. So Richard, if the zombie apocalypse starts in Amish, Ohio, what tool are you going to grab as you run out of your house?
Oh, wow. It depends on if I'm hungry or if I'm feeling like painting.
Well, what artistic tool? Like,
I better grab
what is what's your most important artistic tool?
Really just I use Prismacolor pencils to sketch with, and sketching is the backbone. Because I have somewhat higher profile as an artist, I get a lot of kids, elementary, high school, and college age kids who are talented that contact me and ask, drawing is simple as an answer. I mean, I think they want me to say something that's a little more elaborate or some shortcut or something, but really just draw. It's the foundation. I had an instructor tell me once that, you can be a bad painter or just not a very experienced painter, but if you can draw, you can create good art, and you can tell a story, and you can, just create and have a voice. If you can't draw but can paint, there's still a place for you, but it's just the type of work anyway that I do. The drawing is so foundational to it that there's ways around the coloring, but there's no way around if for a hippo, if it looks like a squirrel, you're in trouble. So I'll grab my pencils. How about that?
Hey, Richard, I know we need to go, but you mentioned your kids. I'm curious of their ages, and do they show any interest in illustrating or drawing or art?
Well, they're all older now and out of the house. And we have 3 girls and then a boy. And they all show artistic qualities, but in different ways, more tactile. And the 3 girls anyway, they all, do everything from stitching work to sculpting and that type of thing. My son is the last one. He can draw very well and was always recognized for it. And I kind of hoped that he may consider going the direction of illustration or some artwork, but he said, no. I've watched, there is a lot of pressure, deadlines, and it's a different thing to be able to draw and paint when it has to be due tomorrow. That's never bothered me in case it really has it spurs me on actually. But he said he wouldn't like that at all. He wouldn't like the pressure. It would take all the fun out of it. And I can see that. So he went in to he's a nurse right now. And so he's looking to possibly become a, what's it called, nurse practitioner. So
Oh.
that's real close to art, but no,
Well, you don't look
very
old
proud.
enough to have adult children, so or maybe it's just this really bad, foggy, phasey, hazy kind of view.
Yeah.
You look young. That's awesome, though.
Well, thank you, and it's the rain, but thank you for that. And I will say, for I don't know how many are on here, but if anyone has questions, or as in the case of Leanne, if there is an opportunity to come out and sign books or visit schools, you can go to my website. My website's new after 12 years. I finally have a new website, and it's www.rcowdrey.com. And yeah, and you can contact me through that or email, whatever. And I'd love to answer any questions or visit schools or bookstores or whatever you have in mind. So.
Well, thank you so much, Richard. It was such a pleasure to hear from you tonight. And thank you again to the independently owned bookstores in the Great Lakes and Midwest that partnered to host the event tonight, and to everybody who participated in support of books and authors. And finally, again, Richard, thank you so much for taking the time tonight and for dealing with technical difficulties in the middle of a rainstorm to share your story with us and Fiona's story with us.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you to the independent bookstores. I have, like I said, I'm way out. My nearest town has an independent bookstore called Paragraphs. And I support them as much as I possibly can. I have my biggest events there, and I love them, and we have a great relationship. So God bless you all.